Hello and welcome to this refresher on tags and macro levels in Integration Designer. I'm Vincent Bova, AV Pro Training Content Manager. Integration Designer 11 provides many powerful features that are designed to improve efficiency while simplifying programming. At the heart of the software are tags and macro levels, two features that make programming faster and easier. For many programmers, however, these concepts can seem confusing at first. In this lesson, we'll demystify tags and macro levels, explain how they work, and show you how to use them with confidence in your own projects. Before we go in depth on tags, let's define what tags are. A tag is a logically named label assigned to buttons or feedback for the purpose of programming macros and feedback. Now, tags have a lot of uses, but before we review that, let's go over important guidelines for tags. First, tags are logically named and standardized, almost like a language specific to Integration Designer. Software development comes up with standard tags on a device type, for example, a media streamer, music streamer, cable or satellite box, or to a specific device level. For example, even though we do have media streamers and music streamer tags that are general, we also have specific tags, for example, for Roku's and Sonos players. Tags are case sensitive and are always capitalized. The first letter is always capitalized, and if there's additional words in the tag, such as pop-up menu, each word is always capitalized. Now, tags are also case sensitive, so you have to be careful with that. Now, another important guideline to understand is that buttons and feedback require tags before programming. So it's not possible to program a button before you give it one of these labels. And tags are central to many features in the software. We're going to be going over that today with a sample file that's going to be used to review these features. Segment 1, Auto-Programming. In this project file, I'm going to show you how tags can be useful for auto-programming. In this file, I have a bunch of different rooms and controllers in each room. I'm going to select this DirecTV satellite box. This is the source view. And in the source view, you have the ability to see all the pages for that source on all the various controllers that you've added a page for. You could also add a blank page, merge pages from an existing or another project, access the page wizard, which is a collection of templates, or you could export this as a source bundle, preserving your work for later. Now, we have a standard stock template for cable and satellite boxes. What you see here is the standard template for iPads. And if I click on an iPhone, that's the standard template for an iPhone. We've got a standard template for an ISR4, and we've got a standard template for an IST10. So no matter what satellite or cable box you add, this is the standard template that is going to be used should you choose elegance and use our stock templates. Now, these templates are all available in our page wizard. If you select the page wizard and then pick a device like the IST10, here you'll see the collection of all of our templates that we assign to devices. We have Coral templates, and if I scroll a little bit further down, these are all of our elegance templates. Now, by default, you'll see the portrait view, but you could change the preview orientation to landscape. So if you're using an AM/FM radio, this is the template we're going to serve up for you. So if you add a tuner for a particular AVR, this is going to be the page template that we assign. Apple TV, however, has its own template. We also have a blank generic template, which you could use for anything you like. Now, for the cable satellite TV template, Doesn't that look familiar? That's the exact template I showed you earlier. This is the template we will serve up no matter what cable or satellite model you have add to the workspace. Camera multi-view, we've got a climate template, a DVD or Blu-ray template can be used instant with both. Dynamic camera feeds, favorites, home pages, intercom. We even have a keyboard template, and the list goes on. Some of these templates are generic. For example, a generic cable satellite template, a generic movie player template. But some of these templates are also very specific. For example, we've got a template specific to Lutron lighting. And we have a specific template for Roku and for Schedule Manager and Sonos. So templates can be either specific or general. And the same holds true for tags. I'm going to click on my IST10. Now, how do you know what tags are and where to find them? If I click on a button or feedback, should you have feedback, you're going to see a tag window directly below in the tag window area. So you could see the tag for this 1 digit is 1. If I click on up, the standard tag is up, and you can see it mapped to a command up. If I click on pause, the standard tag is pause, and it mapped to the pause in the DirecTV template. If I click on record, record is the tag, and record is the relationship to the tag. So tags are very logically named. We've come up with a logical name for tags, making it easy for you to program. Now, how do you know what standard tags look like? Well, there's a couple of ways you can do that. First, you could look at some of the auto programming that's been done to some of these templates. So if you spot check some of these, like back has a back tag, menu has a menu tag, and that's mapped to the menu button on the DirecTV. Channel up has its own tag, and so on and so forth. So tags are standard and logically named. So that's how we auto-program these pages. Another way to find tags and identify them is through the tag browser in Integration Designer. If I click on Tag Browser, you'll notice a drop-down menu. You can show all tags, only macro tags, text tags, System Manager tags that are designed specifically for System Manager, and tags that apply to the drivers in your system. So for example, if I scroll down to my DirecTV driver, I'm going to see all the different tags that correlate with the DirecTV or cable satellite. So for example, 0, 1, back, blue, all of these tags are green. And what that means is this current page that I'm viewing has tags that have been auto-programmed and assigned to buttons. If the tag is green, that means that that tag exists on this current page view that I'm looking at. So the tags that are not green and checked have not been allocated to this page. Now, when we capture a template, we don't always give you every single command in that template. We leave some for later so that you can build your interface more advanced if you need to, but in the least, it's simple for a client. However, there are some things that are missing from this interface that we may want to add. For example, if the client is dialing up channels, I notice that dash hasn't been allocated to the workspace. So one thing I can do is make a copy of a button. I'll just copy and paste this button and slide it over here. And now what I can do is repurpose this button with a new tag. I can drag and drop that dash tag over to the button. And now in the tag window, it says dash, and it's been mapped to dash in the DirecTV code set. Let's do another one. I'm going to repurpose info, and I'm going to change this to list. I could either drag and drop list over to the button, which is much easier, or I could go to the tag window and just type in the word list and hit enter. And that will connect the button to list. Now, what about info? Is info gone? Did I remove it? Did I impact it? Did I erase it? All I have to do is go back to the tag window now, enter in info, and it will reconnect the function. So it's possible to change the relationship to a tag, but if you erase the tag window, like I'm doing now, you don't lose that relationship from the tag to the command or feedback in that code set. So let's relabel this info and keep going. Now there's other things that this interface doesn't have. For example, a power on or power off, or even a power toggle. So I'm going to copy this button. I'm just going to Control C, Control V. I'm just going to put this up here in the corner. I want this to be a power button for my project. I could go and look for the tag in the list here, and there's you'll see power, which is power toggle, power off, and power on. And I could drag any of these over. Let's drag the power on tag over. And let's click on the button. Now it connects to the on command from the DirecTV code set. So the tag doesn't have to match the command exactly. And we'll explain how this all works internally, but the tag just maps to the corresponding command. Let's now label this button power, and let's change the tag. Instead of power on, let's just call it power. Now again, tags are case sensitive, and if it's a standard tag, we capitalize it, and if it's two words in the tag, like channel up, we'll capitalize both words. So tags are very important for auto programming. Now let's explain the process for auto programming. Before I do, I want to click on the page wizard one more time, select the IST10, and I want to scroll down to the Elegance DVD Blu-ray tab, template. I'll change the preview orientation. And this is what a Blu-ray template looks like before any program is added to it. This is our generic DVD or Blu-ray template. So whether you add a Samsung Blu-ray, Sony Blu-ray, Apple Blu-ray, Denon Blu-ray, it doesn't matter, or a DVD, you're going to get this template served up no matter what. Now, none of these templates have been programmed in advance. We simply tag them. So let's see how this works. I'm going to go to the Add Workspace item, and I'm going to search under infrared for a Sony Blu-ray. So I'm just going to type in some keywords, and I'm going to go with most models. Here you'll see a preview of the code set, so you could be pretty sure that a lot of these are going to map to the tags in the template. Not all, but the ones that are most important. Let's add this to the media room. Click Next. We'll assign a port. We'll name this Blu-ray Media Room. And we'll add this to all of our controllers in the global area, which are multi-room, and our media room controllers. Now, what just happened? RTI served up our generic DVD Blu-ray template whenever we add a Blu-ray. What happens in between the time that the template is served up and delivered inside Integration Designer, as you see now on our IST10? Well, a process occurs where the tags on the template are matched up internally to the commands in the on the tags. So the tag for system menu will map to system. Menu will map to menu main or other variations. So there's an internal cross-reference process that happens internally when you add a device that's tagged. Whenever a tag is introduced to Integration Designer, whether you've brought in a template yourself, added a template using a code set, or just simply tagged a button, that tag will look up that device and auto-program it. So tags are responsible for auto-programming. Now, not all tags are created equal. If I go to my tag browser dropdown and I select, let's say, our climate control page, let's just find our climate control, our network thermostat driver, you're going to see that these tags are much different looking because obviously a thermostat's functions are going to be much different than that of a Blu-ray player. So you could see tags like stat fan on, stat operating state, stat override, stat heat. Next to these tags, you'll see a symbol. M means that tag is designed to program a command or macro. V means that tag will program a feedback type of function. And T means that the tag has a text type of feedback known as text tags. So I know that if I drag in stat set point on my climate page, that I'm probably going to get feedback and some text value showing me the state of that set point or the set point itself. So every device has its own, not every device, but most devices have tags that have either specific to that device or specific to that classification of device. For example, Kaleidescape has its own little tags that are useful for Kaleidescapes, like movie store, movie covers. Those are just not going to be found in any other device. So our software developers make sure that when they build drivers or when they are mapping these devices, that they have tags to accommodate them. Let's click on our Kaleidescape. Now, obviously, with our Kaleidescape, we don't have much functionality in the stock templates. So, for example, return, which is a tag of back. There's no command. That means it couldn't find anything to connect to that function. Now, if we're not sure why or if we want to repurpose this, we could go to our Kaleidescape dropdown and look for a command that would be useful for a back command, if there is any. So let's scroll through. Let's see if there's a return. Typically, the standard tag is back. So I don't see a back, but there is a browse back. Maybe we'll add that. So let's drag that in and see what happens. And now you'll see back up the browse list. So this is useful for browse lists. So that's not going to work. So we're going to probably need to repurpose this button to do something completely different. And if I scroll down, let's make this show our movie covers. Let's drag that in. And now this will send a command to say, let's show the movie covers and feedback to make the button reverse state or press state, force the press state when movie covers is selected. Let's change the label of the button. Oh, this will automatically program that in. So let's go and edit this text, remove this tag, and now let's name this movie covers. So pretty simple to auto program drivers, which have more comprehensive control. That's why there's only the tags for drivers here. There's even tags for our Bijou device. These are specific to Bijou, which has a headphones feature. These are the dynamic range presets, the gains that we have. So these are very specific tags. Whereas if I click on, let's say, our Blu-ray tags, let's go to our DirecTV tags. Those are specific to DirecTV. But if I go to Sonos, those are specific to Sonos. Now, typically IR code sets are going to be more general. So those aren't really going to be specific to a device unless that device has specific functions that need to be mapped. So tags are great for auto programming. However, that's not the only reason why you would use tags. Tags are also useful for other things, such as maintenance, and we'll go over that next. Segment 2, maintenance with macro levels. Now, macro levels are also another feature in the software that sometimes can be a little bit, takes getting used to. A lot of people are confused because they're used to just programming a command on a button and that's it. Now that command is tied to that button and that's the way it works. If they've got another button that has to do the same thing on another controller, well, that's tied to that button. But with Integration Designer, we have something called macro levels. Now, when you're working with macro levels, you always want to kind of expand your workspace. Now, before we start going through this, it's important to understand the two ways to access the user interfaces. The first way, click on a controller. So, for example, if I want to see all of the pages that are on the IST10 in the media room, I'm going to select the IST10 in the media room. And this is useful because you could quickly make changes to a specific controller and have access to all the pages. The page order, of course, doesn't matter because System Manager ultimately determines what order these pages are selected by the client. Now, but you could browse through these pages, make some quick changes. You also have a couple of other features up top. Since you're in the controller configuration, you could apply different themes. So, for example, if I want to select a different theme here, I can go and select that, click OK, and that'll apply a theme to all my pages. So this has some advantages, the controller view, over other views, which I'm going to show you next. And you would also come here to access the controller properties. So simply put, if you're making changes to a controller specifically, well, you're going to want to be in the controller view. Now, what if the client tells us, would you mind making some changes to, let's say, our Apple TV favorites or something, or our satellite favorites? The problem is that we've got several remotes that are controlling this satellite. We've got multi-room controllers and controllers in the media room that are controlling the satellite. So rather than select each controller and then select the page and then try to find the satellite box and then select the first multi-room controller, try to find the satellite box or whatever device you're editing, there's an easier way to do this, and that's called the source view. Now, if you're coming from Integration Designer 9, that could be a tough transition because we like to see pages for a particular controller. But there's a better view that you should live in, and that's the source view. Rather than click every controller to make changes to satellite, instead, I'm going to go to under sources in our media room. See the source tab here? And I'm going to select the DirecTV. And now, because I'm in the source view, I can see all the pages for the DirecTV on the various controllers that have pages and that have been auto-programmed. And as I scroll through here, I can make quick changes to the DirecTV on this multi-room controller, this multi-room controller, this single controller, and this local room controller pretty quickly and easily. Now, the source view also has some extra features you're not going to find in the controller view. For example, the ability to add a blank page, merge a page from another project, page wizard, or export a source bundle. So these are very useful for, making maintenance to your project. Okay? So it's important to know these two views. I'm going to stick with the media room DirecTV here, and I'm going to go over the maintenance feature with macro levels. Now, if I click on a button, let's say menu, you're going to notice, and I'm just going to move this window over a little bit so it's easier to view. You're going to notice in the macro programming window or tag editor, because you can program macros and feedback here, you're going to see that each macro, there are different levels. There are 4 unique levels: global, source, room, and controller. And you can see that our source macro is highlighted and has some programming here. And it's pointing to menu on our DirecTV. Well, these are different types of levels you could assign when you're doing programming. So whenever you program a button, before anything else, you have to tag that button. And then you have to decide what macro level or variable level, but let's stay on macros for this particular class. What macro level do you need to assign to that button? Now, these macro levels have different properties, and we'll explain what they do. Now, you'll notice that if I start browsing around here and start clicking around, that almost everything here has a source level macro. So what is a source level macro? A source level macro will take a tag like menu, and it will take that tag, and if it's programmed on a source level, we'll make sure that anywhere that tag appears on this DirecTV media room, on all the controllers controlling it, that it does the same thing. So if I make a quick change to this menu, what if I just change this quickly to another command, but I keep the tag? What if I change this to on demand instead, or interactive, right? I just changed the relationship from the menu tag, and I made a different relationship. I now point it to the active command in the DirecTV on a source level. So like I promised, a source level macro will take the tag menu and make sure that this relationship, which is active, stays the same wherever this tag appears on this source on all the controllers controlling it. So let's see if that's right. Let's click on another controller like the ISR4, and let's click on the menu button that's in the interface here. Click on this, and because this tag is the same, and because the relationship is the same on a source level, that change has been populated on all these controllers that are controlling our media room DirecTV. Now, these tags are specific. Even though these tags, we could have 5 different DirecTVs in the media room, these tags are specific to the DirecTV in the media room. This device name, DirecTV Media Room. If we had another DirecTV, they could have their own source level macro programming. So why source level macro programming? Well, it makes maintenance easier. You get to fix mistakes. You also get to bring commands in and use them on all your controllers instead of making changes to all these different controllers. Let's give you an example. The client wants us to make some changes on the Kaleidescape. On the play, pause, and stop, they want to put some scene buttons on those commands. The problem is that we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different controllers controlling this Kaleidescape. And I don't want to have to make those 3 changes to 7 different controllers. That's 21 different transactions. Instead, I just want to change one of these pages, and I want the rest to be reflected. That is the benefit of a source level macro. So now on the play command, let's bring in a movie scene. I'm going to go to my macro steps, bring in a command, and I'm going to select my Lutron lighting system, and I'm going to select from my seeTouch button. I'm just going to pretend that scene 3 is a movie scene. And of course, I'd have to do the same on my stop command. Let's make that an all-on scene. So that'll be scene 5. And then of course on my pause, I want that to be my intermission scene. So I'm going to make that scene 2. So I've got different scenes on these buttons. The problem is that I've got a bunch of other controllers that are controlling this Kaleidescape. And it would stink if I had to go and make changes to each one at a time. Not only is that time consuming, but that could open me up for some mistakes because of the repetition and monotony of it, right? But as I start to click on other controllers and I click on those buttons that have the same tags, you'll notice that change, because it's a source level macro, will populate on wherever that tag appears, wherever that tag appears on the Kaleidescape in the media room, on all the controllers that are controlling it, it will make sure that tag and the relationship is the same, meaning the tag has the same commands connected to it. So if I click on my iPad, and now I click on my play button and my pause button and my stop button, as well as my iPhone, everything has been populated. So instead of 21 different transactions, I made 3 different transactions. Source, level, macro. Now, source level macros are the most popular because whenever we auto-program source devices, we typically put source level macros. And why is that? Because if you make changes to anything, it will populate them wherever that tag appears that's tied to that button or feedback, anywhere in that source on all the controllers that are controlling that source. Okay? Now, what about the Sonos player? We've got a couple of Sonos players. We've got one here in the gym, right? And we've got another one in the media room. So there's a media room Sonos port. 2 different Sonos players. They have the same exact tags, but because these tags are on a source level, they're only going to be specific to that source. And it shows you right here what that source level tag is pointing to. It's pointing to the source named Sonos Port Media Room in the media room, and it's a source level. So I know if I make a change to this tag, instead of making it a toggle, I can do something else, maybe make it a straight pause button. I know that I'm only affecting this source, and thus all the controllers controlling this source in this room, the media room. Okay? So a tag, source level macro, takes the tag and makes sure that tag, if it's programmed on a source level, does the same thing wherever that tag appears on that source. And we made that easy for maintenance. Okay? Now, what if the client, and I'll just go back to our Blu-ray since we like to pick on that. What if the client wants to do something special that we don't have a tag for? For example, this system button here has a tag called system menu, but nothing's been populated. And what that means, obviously, is that for this particular Blu-ray player, there wasn't a relationship that was predetermined in the cross-reference database between this tag and the command and at least the Sony Blu-ray we added. But we could do a couple of things now. We could either delete this button, or we could repurpose it with a new tag and new function. Now, what if we wanted to do something special? What if we wanted to do a couple of routines here? Like, for example, what if we wanted to make a specific scene for my Blu-ray player? So, for example, I'm going to go here and edit text, and I'm going to call this Favorite DSP. But this Favorite DSP, I'll just call it Fav DSP. But this Favorite DSP only corresponds to my Blu-ray player. It doesn't correspond to other sources, just my Blu-ray. I want a special little scene that we'll just call it, in fact, we'll call it Favorite Scene. But I want this scene to only apply when I'm enjoying my Blu-ray player in my media room, this source. So I'm going to program a source level macro. Now, I don't have a tag for this function, so I can make up my own tag. Now, when you're making up your own tags, try to stay true to the convention. Make sure that they're logically named, make sure that they're capitalized, make sure that they're logical. You're going to want to make sure that these tags look and work for the function you're doing. So obviously I'm going to call this favorite scene. Something that I know I can identify that tag pretty easily. Now I can create my own macro level. Obviously, I'm going to go with source since I only want this to work on my Blu-ray player like this, right? And now, if I go bring in a command, let's go bring in a command here. I've got a Bijou in this room. So I'm sorry, an AVR. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to set a sound program. So let's go find the sound programs here. Let's see, we're on Denon. Let's go find some quick surround modes. And I'm going to do quick 2, which is our Blu-ray. Maybe I'll do a quick lighting scene while I'm at it. So I'm going to go to my commands here, select my Lutron, go and select whatever the scene function is from my Lutron system. It could either be a phantom button or a keypad button. I'll just pretend in this case it's a phantom button. And we'll make sure it's phantom button 5. We'll set that Blu-ray scene for me in my media room. Now, I've got a tag called favorite scene. I've got a macro level called source level. It will take this tag and make sure this tag does the same thing wherever it appears on this source only. So if I go to my Kaleidescape, right? And I'll just bring in a button real quick. I'll just bring in this button just to have a button here. What if I call this the same tag? Well, that has its own source level macros. It's a different source, thus different source level macros. So let's go back to our Blu-ray player. Okay, we've got our favorite scene. What about our other controllers now? Let's say I go to my iPhone. And now I repopulate. It doesn't have to be this button, but since I'm not using it, I might as well. And I call this tag, same name, they're case sensitive, favorite scene, enter. I spell that wrong? Yes. Favorite scene. And now it'll populate that as well. So source level macros are incredibly powerful, whether you're using standard tags or your own tags. Again, if you're using your own tags, make sure they're logically named. Make sure that they're paying attention to case sensitive. They're always capitalized if you're using a first letter in a word or a second letter or the second word. Make sure that's capitalized as well too. Now, you don't have to, but it's a good idea to keep you very standard. So, to summarize, source level macros are a special macro level that will take the tag, whether it's a standard tag or a tag you made up, and make sure that that relationship, the commands that are tied to that tag, are the same for that source in that room on all controllers. So we've got that favorite scene button, that anywhere that tag appears on the Blu-ray in the media room, on all these different controllers, I've got 7 of them, it'll do the same thing, eliminating the need for me to have to program 7 different controllers with the same exact function. And what if I made a mistake and now that tag appears on all these different controllers? All I got to do is change it on one and it will reflect. So it's easy to fix mistakes. It's easy to push things to different to your source on different controllers, making maintenance simple and easy. Now, there's other macro levels though. So, and we might want to we want to make that tags relationship travel a little further in the interface. Okay? We've noticed source level macro takes the tag and make sure the tag does the same thing only on the source you created on, right? So if I create a tag called favorite scene on my Blu-ray and program it to do such, it's only affecting my Blu-ray in the media room. But what if I wanted to affect all the sources in a particular room, right? Including those shared sources and global when I select that room. Well, that's a different story. That's not a source level macro because the source level macro is only going to impact one source, the source you created on. But there's a room level macro, and a room level macro is designed to do just that. It will affect the room. and everything in it on all the controllers that are in it. So let's do an example now. Let's say we have a media room here, a kitchen, an office, a gym as well. And each of these rooms, we have lighting control going on, right? So what if we wanted a favorite lighting scene function? Okay, so let's go pick a source. It doesn't matter which. I'll go to my Apple TV, right? And there's a couple of functions that we're not using. This TV Plus function. So we might as well repurpose it instead of deleting it. Now I want this to be a favorite lighting scene, but I don't want it just to be for my Apple TV and program it on a source level. I want to make this favorite lighting scene do the same thing wherever that tag appears on every source in my media room, okay? Not just on my Apple TV, but on my Kaleidescape, on my Sonos, on my Blu-ray player, on my homepage, okay? On my DirecTV. So I'm going to give this a tag, favorite lighting scene, okay? And now I'm going to program a room level macro. And what a room level macro does is it affects every source in a room. And now anywhere this tag appears in the media room, period, on any source, on any controller controlling the media room, including those multi-room controllers, because they're eventually going to select the media room, I can make this do the same thing. Let's see how it works. I'm going to go to my macro steps, bring in a command. And not only am I going to set my favorite lighting scene, let's go to our seeTouch keypad button, and let's pretend button 2 is our favorite scene. Okay, maybe that's a cool scene for our media room, okay? And I'll put a little comment in there that says, favorite media room scene. Notice I said media room, not Apple TV, not Sonos, not Blu-ray. It's not specific to a source. So we're not programming a source level macro. Instead, we're going to go up further to the room level, and we're going to program something that's going to reach out a little further. Now, like I promised you, a room level macro takes this tag, favorite lighting scene. Let me copy this so I don't have to type it in again with this new keyboard. And now anywhere this tag appears on any source and any controller controlling the media room, it will do the same thing. Let's prove it. I'm going to select a different source. Let's pick our, let's see here. Let's go pick our homepage. Okay. And now I'm going to pick our IST10, different controller, or ISR4. Let's do the ISR4. Different controller, different source, right? And I'm going to go on a button here. I'm going to pick one of these buttons. Well, let's go with this button right here. We're not using it, right? And instead of naming it soft key, I'm going to name it the same exact tag. Make sure you hit enter, and it will apply that command on a room level. So anywhere I put that tag on any source in the media room, on any controller, even my Blu-ray player, on my, let's go to my ISR4 or IST10, or even my global controller, it will do the same thing. So if I go to my IST10 and I go and repurpose this, boom, it will program. So a room level macro takes the tag, favorite lighting scene, and wherever the tag appears in this room, the media room, on any of these controllers that control the media room sources, that includes the local media room controllers and multi-room controllers when they select the media room, it will do the same exact thing. The relationship stays the same. What about other rooms though? What if I take this tag and now I apply it to a Blu-ray in the office? What if I go to that and that system command is populated on this guy? So let's repurpose this. And I hit enter. Well, that's pointing to a different room, the office. And now if I program a room level macro here, I can make this do something completely different, even though the tag is the same. Since the room level only affects the room in the parentheses, office, it will affect anywhere that tag appears on any source in the office, on any controller controlling those sources and shared sources. But we'll get into that a little later because those shared sources are also used in the office. When you select the office, it will work the same way. Okay, so source level macro will take the tag and make sure the tag does the same thing anywhere that tag appears. In this case, on this Blu-ray in the office, on all the controllers controlling the Blu-ray. Great for source maintenance. A room level macro takes the tag and makes sure the tag does the same thing anywhere the tag appears in that room. For example, volume up has a room level macro. Why? Because when we set a device as the room audio source, whatever we did here in the office, the sound bar, instead of programming all source level macros with the same volume up command, it programmed a room level macro. So wherever volume up appears in the office, it does this. And if I go to my media room and I unlock that layer, anywhere volume up appears in the media room on all sources, it will raise the AVR. So two different, same tag, two different room macros. Okay? So great for those commands that you need to apply to all the sources in a room, not just one source, like the source level macro. Okay? All right, there's a couple of other macro levels to go over. Now let's talk about a global level macro. A global level macro is a macro level that will, wherever the tag appears, it will do the same thing everywhere in the entire project file. Doesn't matter what room, what source, what controller. And of course, if you do something like this, you're going to want to do commands that apply to more than just the source. You won't make a play command, a global level macro, more than just a room. You don't want volume up to be the same in every room, on every source, on every controller, because different rooms have different volumes. However, if you have those commands that apply to the whole business or the whole home, that's a great example of a global level macro. Now, the client wants to secure the home, okay? So I'm going to make a tag, secure home, okay? And now I'm going to program a global level macro, okay? I'm on my Blu-ray in the media room, but it doesn't matter because when I go and bring in a command in here on a global level, wherever that tag appears in the entire project file, it's going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go and select our security system. Let's see, security system, and I'm going to select the ARM function. Let's see. Let's go and arm that partition 1. I'll leave these codes the way they are. Okay, but he also wants to do something else. Maybe he wants to, well, let's leave it like that for now. So whenever a secure home appears, label the button right, so he knows what it does. Now, if I'm right, wherever this tag appears anywhere in the entire project, regardless of the room, regardless of the source, regardless of the controller, it will do the same exact thing. Let's see. I'm going to go to my gym. I'm going to select my KX4 in the gym. And I'm going to select a source, a different source. Let's go with the Lutron lighting, okay? And on the Lutron lighting, let's do another source. It's a little too involved here. Let's go to the Blu-rays here. Or Apple TV is better. Let's do that. All right, so let's go and repurpose one of these commands. I'm going to go and I'm just going to bring in another command here. Copy this button. I'm going to throw it over here, shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to label it first, secure home. And now I'm going to give this the same tag name, secure home. And boom, it programs. Now picture this. This makes the client feel peace of mind that anywhere that secure home appears, it does the same thing. And this button now, you're going to put it all over the project file, in all these different rooms. For example, in my office, I'll put it on my Office DirecTV. And I'll just name this secure home. That'll populate there also. So now the client's got this everywhere. So big deal, right? You could have probably programmed this just as quick. It's only one command. But what makes this really special now is when the client wants to make changes to this. Let's say he wants to add on a command to close the garage door and make sure the lights are closed in those common areas that are left on all the time. Now, in the old world, you'd have to go and hunt down that button everywhere it existed and make changes to it. Now, you just do it in one place. Pick a place. I'll just do it here on this homepage. I'll use this button right here. Let's tag it. All I got to do is change it anywhere it's on a global level. And now I'll just go bring in a relay here, make sure that closes the garage door. So I'm going to look for my relay, select my garage door relay, and there it is. I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to also bring in a command here to make sure my lights are all off in my home. So I'm going to go to my Lutron lighting. I'm going to go to my Phantom keypad and select keypad number, got 100 of them, 12 or a little less. So we'll pick 12. Maybe I want to close my shades, whatever you want to do. But the point is, you do it in one place, and now wherever that tag appears, anywhere in the project file, oops, see how it's case sensitive? It will do the same thing. Global level macro. Now, a global level macro is going to be used for those things, again, that are very general. You're not going to make a play command. That's the source level. There's no real rules, but typically you don't want the play button, the play tag to have the same relationship everywhere in the entire project file. Typically it's used for things that are general, like lock front door. You only have one front door, right? Or secure home, or do things like close garage one. Things that are not specific to a source, not specific to a room, that's source and room level. And so you kind of get the idea. All right. So let's go back to the media room. Okay. Because we got a lot going on in that room. Now in the media room, there's 2 local controllers and multi-room. That's okay. Okay. Let's pretend that 2 people are roommates. One owns the ISR 4. And we'll call this ISR 4. Let's call it Tim. Tim's got the ISR 4, and the IST 10 belongs to his sister. We'll call it, well, her name is Judy. Let's call it Judy. All right. So Judy's got the IST 10, and Tim's got the media room. There's other controllers controlling the media room also, the multi-room controllers when they select the media room. So let's go to our Blu-ray player since we have been using that a lot. And we'll repurpose this secure home again. Now let's say Tim and Judy tell their installer that they want a favorite DSP, right? And that favorite DSP should be regardless of what source is selected. So wherever they press favorite DSP, at least in the media room, it's going to do the same thing. So we're going to program a room level macro. So let's give this a tag, favorite DSP. Okay. So what macro level do we want? Well, it's up to us. How far do we want this tag and whatever relationship we program to travel? Do we want it to be on a global level, meaning anywhere it appears in the entire project, it's going to do the same thing? That wouldn't make any sense because we've got an AVR in the media room, and how would that matter to the gym or the office? So that's out, okay? Do we want it to be on a source level macro? Well, that'll only affect this Blu-ray that we're creating it on. So maybe that's not really what we want either. Remember, Tim and Judy want this to be on every source in the media room. So we're going to go with the room level macro, right? And now we're going to program a command here that will go to our AVR. Let's find a good format here. Sound mode. And we could pick from one of these many sound modes. Let's say our favorite sound mode is Dolby Digital for Tim and Judy. And I just programmed this on On Judy's remote, what about Tim's remote? Well, I could go to another source, like Apple TV. And on Tim's remote, and there's other remotes too, I'm going to just repurpose this button right here temporarily to just be Favorite DSP. And it does the same thing. So whether I'm on Tim's remote or Judy's remote, Favorite DSP does the same thing on every source in the media room. Homepage, projector and AVR if they had pages, DirecTV, Apple, Kaleidescape, Sonos, lighting, any source, even shared sources when the media room is selected. But we'll save that for later, okay? So let's just make this a close symbol. Let's just go and look for a DSP symbol. Don't really have anything great. I'll just look for a pair of speakers or something. I'll throw that in there just so we know what it does, okay? So life is good. Tim and Judy are enjoying their media room, and whether Tim is using his controller or Judy is using his controller or controller on any source, when they press Favorite DSP, it applies Adobe Digital. That's the way it works, whether they're on the Kaleidescape, Apple TV, and all the other sources. Let's do this on one of these controllers first. Okay, so we get the idea. Let's just leave this as is. Let's go to Tim's here, and we'll just put it over here real quick since we're not using that. So you get the idea. Everywhere this appears in the media room, it does the same thing. Now, what if Tim and Judy now decide that, one of them decides at least, that they don't like Dolby Digital? However, the other is going to stay firm on that. Dolby Digital is what I want to use. Well, they call back their installer. The problem is now this button exists in tons of different places. And now the poor installer in the old days had to go and hunt down everywhere this exists and now make change, re-tag it like Tim's favorite DSP or Judy's favorite DSP, right? That's not fun. What do you do in this case where you want one tag to do one thing on one controller and then leave it alone on the others or do something different on the others? That's the controller level macro. So with a controller level macro, let's decide what we want to do first. Let's say Judy is the one that wants to change this favorite DSP. Okay. So, whoops, typed it in wrong again. Okay. So what we're going to do is we can't change this because it's going to change Tim's too. So if we change Judy's, it's going to change Tim's because it's a room level. That means it's going to impact every controller on every source that's controlling the media room. Okay? Not other rooms, right? So what do we do in this case where Judy wants her own little favorite DSP? Well, controller level macro. I'm going to copy this macro so that Tim doesn't get affected. And I'm going to paste that into the controller level macro. And now Judy wants that, let's see, DTS surround. Okay. Now, what did I just do? Now I've got a room level macro and a control level macro. How do you have two macro levels on one button? What will happen? Will it just fire both of them? No, because these macro levels have priorities. A global level macro, even though it travels the furthest, has the lowest priority. So if there's a source, room, or controller level, it will trump it. A source has this priority over global. Room has the priority over source and global, meaning it will supersede it and run over it. And controller is the highest priority of all. So what did I just do? I created a controller level macro. What does that do? Well, first of all, it's not going to run, or it's going to run over the room level macro. So it's going to ignore this. And on the controller level macro, what it does is it takes the tag favorite DSP and makes sure wherever this tag appears on every source in the media room, it does the same thing. But listen to this closely. Only on this controller. it's only going to affect Judy's controller, Judy's IST10. So, Judy's is doing a control level macro. What about Tim's remote? Let's go back to Tim's remote and let's click on this button. I don't even see a controller level macro. So when you create a control level macro on a controller, it's exclusive to that controller. That's the beauty of it. It takes the tag and only applies it to all the sources, like a room macro in a room, but only on that controller. So Tim and the rest of these remotes live happily ever after, but anywhere you go, let's go to the home page and hit Judy's remote. And I'll just borrow, let's see, I don't want to borrow too much because I want to use these a little later. Bring in a button here. I'll put it over here. And now if I call this Favorite DSP, Judy's will maintain her control level macro, but Tim's and the rest, they don't even know about it. They could either have their own controller level macros, meaning local to that controller only, or independent. So a controller level macro, rarely used, not used as often as the others, but whenever you want a tag to do something on a room level, but only on a single controller, meaning I could have a tag on one controller, even though the tag's on the other controller, it could do something completely different on a room level. So every source in this room will do DTS surround on Judy's remote, but on the other remotes, well, this goes on living with the room level macro. Okay? So let's recap. Global level macro takes a tag and applies that tag everywhere in the user interfaces. Every room, every source, every controller. It's the furthest reaching macro level, but it has a lowest priority. Now, a source level macro, that's what you're going to find on sources. So if you click on a source button, you'll see a source level macro. And if you make a change to that, it will change it anywhere that tag appears on that source, on all the controllers controlling that source. Always seen better in the source view. Okay? And then a room level macro takes a tag, like the volume up function, and make sure that that tag does the same thing everywhere in this room, on all the sources, on all the controllers that control this room, and then, but not leaves other rooms alone to their own room macros, even if the tag's the same. Okay? And a control level macro, rarely used, but a controller level macro, let me click on Judy's remote for this, will take the tag and make sure this tag does the same thing wherever it appears on any source in this room, but only on the controller that you created on. Sorry, that's Tim's remote. That's Tim's remote. So Judy's remote, it will do something completely different. And it's exclusive to her remote. Okay? Now, another thing about controller level macros, those are the only macro levels that you can set, if you program it, to standalone. And standalone only works on certain controllers that have that IR line of sight functionality. Our T1B Plus intelligent surface remotes can send out IR line of sight and bypass the processor. So you could set a command to standalone and control standalone devices. Okay? It's the only macro level you can do that, because now I can control something standalone here, even though on the other controllers, they're not capable of standalone. So that is maintenance with macro levels. When we come back, we're going to do another segment on another cool feature of tags corresponding to macro levels, or just tags alone when we come back. Segment 3, linking layers to sources in the workspace. This is another great feature which is going to save you a lot of time and make things pretty easy for you. For example, I'm going to click on one of the home pages we have in the global area. And the reason why is because the larger controllers are here, and those usually have dashboards. Now notice that each of these dashboards have their own little layer. So security, climate, security, and lighting, even weather has its own little layer here. And the great part about having layers on one single page is that you can link them to other sources in the workspace to look up their programming using the tag. Let's see what that means. If you unlock the climate layer here, and if I just click on some of these functions here, stat set point down, stat set point up, cool, all of these are already tagged. Now, the problem is that I already have a device that's been programmed already. Like, for example, if I click on my climate control, I already have a source device that's been programmed with all these functions, right? Why should I have to reprogram them again? Well, what I could do, let me click back here. What I could do is link these layers to those sources. And instead of these tags looking up their relationship using this home source, it'll use that source to look up their tags, as if I created them on that source. So let's see how this works. For the climate template, for the climate layer, I'm going to link this, instead of linking it to global home, which is its default location right now, it's where it was created. It's not going to find any programming. So I'm going to go to the layer properties. And instead of using the default source in the default room it was created on, global home source in the global area, I'm going to link this to my climate source in the dropdown. So it's in global, so I could leave the default room as I want, or I could just leave it global, whatever, it's the same thing, because that's where it was created. And now I can click OK, and this will populate with all those commands. So what did it did? It changed where you should look up those tags. Don't use the home page, because there are no tags called stat up and stat down and stat off. Instead, use that climate source that's already been programmed. What about security? Well, I could link that to the security layer. Security system in the global room. Okay? Well, some programmed. This is a Honeywell, so not every function programs here, but that doesn't mean I can't program something myself. Now notice if I go to program this, it's going to program it on a source level on that source in the security system. So even though I'm on a home page, whatever I put in on a source level here is going to impact that security source in the global area. Let's see what I mean. If I go now and put a command in here and set this to security, and I just went with that arms again. Let's go with armed with code. And I'll leave this the way it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. Arm away. Perfect. Okay. Well, let's do another arm. Let's do arm home for this one, because we already have an arm away. Okay. Now, the great part about this is if I go to the security system now, and I just tag anything on this page or on any of this source, arm, it will do the same thing. So I created a source level macro on another source and linked to this. Now, what else could you use this for? And notice on our homepage also, the weather has already been linked for us. This weather, since we give you a weather driver for with every install, we already know how to link this. So we link this to the global weather source so they can look up all those tags. Okay. Now there's other things you could do as well. You can go and link, like let's say I want to create a quick dashboard. So I'm going to create a quick little layer called Sonos dashboard. Okay. And now I'm just going to go and draw this like a little dashboard here. Pull this down. Make it black. Fill it in with a black color. Okay. I just want to make this a dashboard. I'm gonna make this inactive for now. And I'm going to put some buttons on here. Let's just do we're not going for looks here or anything. I just want to show you the concept. So I'm going to put some buttons on here. I'm going to align them. I'm going to distribute them on the dashboard, not the screen. Okay. So I want this to be a play function. I want this to be a pause function. And I want this to be a stop function. Or skip forward. Let's do skip forward. Okay. Now, as long as you tag these properly, right? As long as you go down and put the right tag in, I'm going to put play. Well, nothing will program, right? Because I'm pointing to the global homepage. And the global homepage isn't going to give you a definition for a play tag like the other sources will. What about skip forward? Well, as you would guess, this is going to be the same thing. It's not going to, let me just keep. Not going to find anything. Neither is pause. But what if I now link this layer to another source other than the home page? What if I link this to my Sonos in the media room? So I'm going to go down to my media room, hit my Sonos port, and set my room to media room. Click OK, and now boom. These will all get their definitions now from the Sonos, right? What if I change my mind? I want this to be a dashboard for my Kaleidescape. Well, I could aim this to my Kaleidescape in the same room. And now these will repoint to the Kaleidescape. There goes my lighting command that I programmed earlier with that scene. Skip forward, pause. Perfect. Or what if I wanted this to link to a Sonos, but not the media room? I'll link it to the Sonos in the gym. And make sure you change the room to gym. So with this feature, you can create audio distribution pages. Let's take a look at our lighting to finish off. On the lighting control page, right? I could go to let's go to a larger controller. I'm going to go to my iPad. Okay. Now with scenes, or at least with the lighting system I'm using, you're going to have to enter in your own scenes. So that won't be auto-programmed, because if I go to the tag browser and I go to my RadioRA 2 tags, there's no scene tags. But what about these loads? Notice we give you a layer for each lighting load. And what you could do with them, since these are all tagged with standard tags, and you can see the green check marks next to the ones that are tagged, right? I can go and link these at the different circuits. Let's link this circuit 1. Let's go to the media room ceiling lights in the media room. Perfect. So a lot of stuff programmed. This programmed, that programmed. Oh, this must have its wrong tag name. It does have the right tag name. Sorry. This programmed a variable for the slider. And this programmed as well. The only thing you got to do is enter in the load names. Circuit 2, well, I'll link that to another one. I'll link that to my media room sconces in the media room. But done. Everything has been programmed for you. Even the level itself. Circuit 3, though, well, I'll link that to a different load in a different room. Let's link that to my kitchen ceiling lights or my kitchen fixture in the kitchen. And that will look up. So tags are great for linking layers. All right. So you can use these to build systems pretty quickly without doing any programming. I haven't done 1 ounce of programming on any of these dimmers. All I have to do is put the name in. RadioRA 3, the LEAP protocol, will do the dimmer names and the scene names for you. This one is a little less tagged, but that's because there's no scene tags available in the driver. Okay. Now, last but not least, let's finish off with segment 4 with shared pages. If I click on any of these shared sources like climate, let's say I added, let's do a neutral one. Let's say I add a satellite box. But a satellite box, I want this to be shared. Maybe it's attached to a matrix switch or a video over IP system. So I'm going to add DirecTV 3 using the existing driver to the global area. So now that's available in all 4 rooms if I choose to do so. And I'll create an interface on every controller in every room. And we'll call this shared, DirecTV shared. Okay. Now once it adds that, I'm going to click close and I'm going to examine this DirecTV. Notice we didn't create a DirecTV for each room. We only created one shared DirecTV in the global area, right? And then on every controller, it has a DirecTV page that's been auto-programmed for us, right? Well, no matter what room we select, whether we're coming from the media room and select DirecTV shared, or coming from the kitchen and select DirecTV shared, or the office or gym, we're going to go to the same page on, let's say, any of these controllers, but let's just use the IST10 as an example. So this is the page we're going to use, and the room name will reflect the current room name. But isn't the volume different in one room versus the next? Well, with our shared pages on a multi-room controller called a global controller, there can be, whoops, this isn't a global controller. Let's do an iPad. On a shared page on a multi-room controller, you could have multiple room macros. As long as the tag exists in each room, it will pass up the tag definition on a room level. So there's the media room volume, kitchen volume, office volume, gym volume. So one room macro per room. And now, which one will run? It depends what room you selected and are coming from. So let's visualize this. The gym now says Bijou volume up speakers. What if I went to the Bijou in the gym? What if I just clicked on any source, on any controller, and I clicked on that, and I changed this to headphones? Well, I just changed it on a room level in the gym. But now watch as my global macro, my room macro changed on my shared DirecTV. Let's take a look. Now the gym says headphones. Now I can either go back to the gym and fix it there or fix it here. So instead of having 4 different pages, one for the media room, one for the kitchen, one for the office, and one for the gym, we could have one shared page, and the room macro that runs will be dependent on what room is selected. And we go over this a lot in our core training, so I recommend taking the class. This is more a refresher on the macro steps. Again, global source. Let's click on another device. Global source room controller. Global will take the tag and make sure the tag does the same thing everywhere in the project. It's great for general commands that apply to the entire home or business. Lock door, lock front door, armed security, secure home. Those are typically global level macros, but they don't have to be. It depends on how far you want that tag's functionality to travel. If you want that tag's secure home to do something different on a source level, source. That will only affect the source you created on. Room will affect every source in that room, and controller will affect every source in that room, but only on the controller you created on. It's exclusive. If you have any questions, please give us a call. We'll go over it again together. Practice makes perfect. This comes naturally after a while. And if you're not sure what macro level to do, experiment, practice, make mistakes. It's going to work, and you're going to learn this. It's going to make programming a lot easier. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next one.